Notice, however, that the way we've written this, any error will be caught by this except block. Doesn't matter what the error is, it will catch any error that arises. So take a look at what happens if we add a different error earlier in the block. Here, we've added a new line at line 5. It prints this message, which itself generates an error. The reason it generates an error is because we need to either use commas in this print statement or convert this one to a string first. We've seen that before, but at the same time, you don't need to worry too much about why the error on line 5 arises. Just know for now, it does arise. So again, our code runs, creates the variable, starts the try block, runs line 4, prints that message, and then it tries to run line 5. Line 5, though, generates an error, and so it kicks execution down to our except block. That skips lines 6 and 7, and instead runs line 10, printing this error explanation. Then line 11 runs and prints our message that execution is done. The problem is that in this case, this is not the right error message. This is not the right explanation. My string is not a number is not the reason why our code crashed. Our code crashed because the number 1 is not a string. So this is the danger with using an except block like this. Here we just accept every single error that might arise. Instead, we could catch just a specific type of error. So here's how we would do that. Our revision is that instead of just having the keyword except is followed by a type of error. We saw before that the error that was generated on line 6 was a value error. So if we only want to anticipate that error, we would say to specifically catch or accept a value error. When this code runs, it again creates our variable, starts our try block, successfully runs line 4, and then tries to run line 5. Line 5, however, generates an error, but it doesn't generate a value error. But the computer doesn't know that yet, so it still kicks execution down to the except block, and that skips lines 6 and 7. However, when it runs the except block, it knows to only look for a value error. Because a value error wasn't found, it does not run the body of that except. So this is kind of like a conditional. It says if a value error was encountered, then run this block of code. But if not, just do whatever you were going to do otherwise. And in this case, that means crash. The error generated on line 5 was not an anticipated kind of error, and so as we see over here, it still causes our code to crash. And it tells us that the error occurred on line 5 and that it was a type error instead of a value error. But now, if we remove line 5 such that a type error does not arise, our results go back to the same thing they were before. The computer tries the try block, runs line 4 successfully, encounters an error on line 5, kicks execution down to the except, finds that it was in fact a value error that triggered this error, and so it does run the body of that code block, and it prints, can't convert, my string is not a number. And once again, because the error was caught, it can continue running and print done at the end. We can also take this one step further. If we're handling unexpected errors or we want to know a little bit more about why the error arose, we can further extend this to print information about the error itself. Here, my only revision is to change line 8 to say accept value error as error. As is a keyword in Python, it's bold and it's red, and it basically takes whatever the error was and assigns it to the variable name that you give after the keyword as. Now, error is a variable, and it holds information about whatever error was encountered. So we could just print error. And the result is actually that we'll get the exact same explanation we would have gotten if we let the error go unhandled or uncaught. The difference is, our program didn't crash, and so we can still print done at the end. What this means is that Python actually has a data type for errors. And there are lots of different things we can check out when we encounter an error. So now instead of just printing whatever our pre-written error statement was, the except block prints whatever it would have printed to the console when it was crashing. So we get the same information.